Hello, and welcome to Red Dead Redemption 2, Chapter 2. Uh, I have with me. Do y'all want to introduce yourself? My Kenzie first.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Kinsey Kenzie or Mackenzie. I speedrun lots of different stuff. Done this game once, but yeah, right.
Hello, I'm Sue. I've never ran this, but good friends with Archie, so I've watched a lot of runs, lurked a lot of runs, so I'm looking forward to it.
Alright, so what we're gonna do here is we are doing a speedrun of Chapter 2, which is Horseshoe Overlook, the chapter near Valentine. And timing is gonna start. I'm going to enter a cutscene here. When I skip it, it's gonna fade to black, and when it fades back in and you see Arthur's face, that's when time starts. So, it's going to be in about. We have to wait for this little header to go away. So, 3, 2, 1, start. So the general gist here is our friend here, Reverend Swanson, has gone out on drinking binge, and we are doing something with the terrain immediately. Very good. So we are trying to kind of like get him back to our little bandit camp. And first we find him at the card game. While we're talking with him, he kind of like sneaks away. So he's here being harassed by this dude. We're going to take care of it, and we immediately get a witness, because nothing is ever simple. So the first real trick here is we're going to keep riding in circles, because we basically want to shoot this guy, but we can't do it until he's like at a certain point. And once he hits that point, we can shoot, and then we want to get as close here to the bridge as possible for the next sequence. And basically we are spinning a circle to conserve momentum for our movement to the bridge. It's it's not much of a time save, but every little bit helps. And while we were, killing people, Swanson wandered away, and now he's on a railroad bridge, which we will run across in first person to be a little faster. And he's got his foot stuck in here. He's not having a very good day. We get him out of there. That train is interesting because it's very cinematic. It's going to move very slowly, but as soon as you can like free him, it starts moving very fast. You can like see it if you pay attention, but usually not the first time. So run away. We're going to knock him over. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to try again, just... Okay, it didn't work. The idea is, if you have him roll over when you run at him, you will basically put the game in a state where it's not sure how to pick him up because he's spinning around. So the game just resolves to canceling the entire animation, pretty much. And, yeah. Now we just get to ride back with him to our camp. There's a faster way to go here, but it's actually not a lot faster. It'll save like 5 or 10 seconds, but it'll lose you like 20 if you botch it, and it's very easy to botch. So we're just not going to do that right now.
Horses can really be your enemy in this in this game. Speaking from experience.
Oh yes.
I think the alternate path that is slightly faster. There's a lot of like low-lying like rocks and pebbles that yeah, if you just like slightly maneuver wrong, yeah, your horse will just trip up or get stuck. And yeah, it's a high risk for like a relatively small time save.
Yeah, definitely the hardest part is this little bit here, this cliff you can see there, is what you would end up coming up on the faster route. And that's usually where your horse will be like, no, I don't have enough momentum. And even after clearing the cliff, it'll like fumble at the last like beat and just slide back down. Not very good. All right. So we've brought him back to camp, and as people who have played the game know, and I know there are people who also dislike this feature a lot, the camp has a kind of like a slowdown feature. You can't run in camp. So instead we're just kind of like skirting the edge like this so we can run over here to Uncle.
Careful not
Everybody's
to hurt
favorite.
yourself to death there, Uncle. I was thinking. Yeah, does it pay well? Oh, eventually. So.
Alright. I hope you'll have your cat jams ready, because we are going to be treated to an incredible musical performance here.
Ladies, that's a song.
Also, going to the right is not quicker. I don't know why Uncle tells you that, but, you know, it's not. So,
Uncle, as per usual, is very incompetent.
yeah, that is very much a correct assessment. So, kind of like the story beat here is those mountains there are where we kind of like spend the prologue of the game, chapter 1. Hiding away after a failed ferry robbery in a city called Blackwater. That's important to keep that in mind. So after finally escaping the mountains when the blizzard stopped happening, the gang has just arrived at camp, and everybody's really sick of, like, you know, being just with a camp, no human contact, you know, whether trapped in a mining town or hiding out in the woods. So we are taking several camp members to town here. Haley, Marybeth, and Karen here are going to be doing recon on the town to see if they can find any leads for crime. And we're going to go shopping with Uncle.
Finally. Look at all that snow on the mountains. Sure don't want to be back up there. You think we should have asked
I'm just going to aim for the little dark patch here. So we go right over it.
Or to do any real work.
Alright.
Here we are, just like I said.
Tell the horse to stay. Otherwise, the horse will trap you into a building, and you can't do much about it.
What are we doing? Well, we're gonna do what any self-respecting maniac does.
Fast boy.
Put the women to work.
With pleasure. We'll start at the saloon.
I don't know why. That dog will always just
Don't get yourself.
blaze ahead past you when you get here.
Get something from the stores. Okay, well, we'll see you at the general store when you're done.
Come on, ladies.
So,
You,
go on.
sorry, yeah. Okay, yeah, what we saw Archie do just now is like some fairly tricky movement, getting around the big wagon. Like it might have looked fairly like trivial, but there's actually like it's a very specific like distance to the cart and stuff to not get put into slowdown, so that you can reach the store before Uncle.
Okay.
And now standing
not gonna
inside,
ask
we just
why.
wait for Uncle to come in, and then bump right past them and leave to progress the mission.
Yeah. If you don't beat him to go into the store,
Get your
and this is how you resolve an argument, by the way.
A friend of mine.
Get the hell off of her, you son of a bitch.
Just a real long distance discussion going on here.
There's no problem here. There will be if you don't get out of here right now.
Obviously, this is not intended. The game kind of expects you to use the dialogue options, which will get you stuck standing where you are. But we just aim the gun instead, and then we're able to just keep moving. And Karen is in here in trouble. We're going to help her.
Your uncle, Marybeth, they're across the street. A friend of hers.
Get out of here, buddy. I paid.
Ain't paid it.
And if you mash both
Come here.
F and left mouse button,
Now.
one elephant.
What the hell are you
Okay, well, fumble the movement anyway, so it didn't matter.
You okay?
So yeah, if you mash mouse and keyboard punch buttons simultaneously, it actually makes you punch faster, which usually lets you kind of like get the jump on that guy. Very strange.
Thank you.
Sadly, it was very dodgy today.
Yeah, it happens. It's you definitely get a little thrown off when he kind of like flies back, because you're mashing, you know, the hit buttons, which means that as soon as he even starts falling, Arthur is gonna like dash forward and like drop kick him, which does, you know, put you in kind of like a poor position. So in the cutscene, this guy sees us, and he recognizes us from that mentioned heist that went wrong in Blackwater. And you know, this is meant to be kind of like the honor tutorial. He's gonna fall off a cliff. Good writing. And the idea is you either help him up or you let him fall. And it's kind of like, you know, which way do you want to resolve your problems, honorable or dishonorable? But we just kind of ride away, and the game correctly interprets it, we're just leaving him to die. Which is, you know, the fastest way to handle it.
It'll find its way back.
Nothing good ever happens in speedrunning with the stories.
Yeah.
Nope.
We picked the true centrist path and just let him fend for himself. It
Yep.
did not go well.
We're just having some drinks with the boys here. Nothing could go wrong.
You about to kiss that guy or punch him?
Things went wrong.
That's a fairly funny line from Bill. Let's just shoot these bastards, because there is actually a glitch that allows you to pull out a weapon during this fight, which makes it go a lot faster. But it's well, yeah, it's not really replicable at this point in time.
Yeah, there's a setup for it, but it's kind of like it takes time to set it up, and more importantly, you have to checkpoint reset at the end of the mission, because you can shoot everyone else, but if you kind of like so the big guy there, Tommy, is kind of like the local, you know, bad dude, and this mission is gonna end with a fist fight with him, and if you have the gun out at that point, all you can do is shoot him, which will like hard lock the mission immediately. So even if you get the setup for the gun, which is faster in the first half, you still gotta checkpoint reset and everything. So it's not as big a time save as one might think. There's definitely a big, I wouldn't call it a run killer, but one of the bigger RNG factors in this game is just how you manage this Tommy fight here. It can be really annoying or really fast, and you have what feels like very little control over it. The main thing we want to avoid here is being thrown by him, which happens if you get too close to the edge. Alright, there we go. So this is the final bit of the fight, and we just kind of like mash hit, while Arthur handles the rest of the fight here.
It's fighting dirty.
Yeah, both figuratively and literally. Look at them. In fact,
This fight is-
go.
This fight is fairly complicated because it's you know, it's not just the usual, you know, do a certain amount of damage and everything will continue. It's like, yeah, there's like certain, I guess, like checkpoints or milestones that you have to hit. Like he has to grab you in a certain way, and then yeah, the second time he grabs you and like puts you to the floor.
I would like to get out. Me?
Oh no, we've been stabled.
Yep. Oh, almost hit it. That would have been bad. Oh, I killed someone. Okay.
That's a real shame. What Archie did there is throw a stick of dynamite. Hopefully, like not at anyone. It's basically just to like scare people and yeah, to get a wanted level without actually having any like concrete crimes blamed on you. It seems to have gone alright, actually. But yeah, specifically, it's because there's a random event you can trigger like right around where we are right now, called a bushwhacking. Which just like, you know, it causes combat very close to the camp. It slows us down, and yeah, if we didn't get a bounty for that, then that actually went through perfectly.
Yeah. So the problem with the bounty is we will be using a stagecoach to travel later on, and you can't use them if you have like a bounty in the area. So we will probably have to either pay it off, or I might just fast travel normally. They kind of like, Abigail, please.
God. Yeah, this is again a repeat of what Archie said earlier. Like we're skirting just around the edges of the camp, so we can not get too slowed down. But yeah, if an NPC blocks our path, then
Already?
You know
we
how
still
it
get slowed
is.
down.
People is happy to borrow off someone like me, but more enthusiastic paying back to someone like you.
Of course. Who are they?
Put the debts in the
All right,
deed box.
so
Try not to kill them.
Strauss there is kind of like the gang's accountant, but also the loan shark. And like you mentioned, we are usually the ones doing the collecting on the loans. So this mission gives you an option between 3 possible collection targets. We're just going to do the one that's closest. You can do all 3, but you have to do 1. So, we're just going to blaze on ahead here. And go and see him. And there's a relatively complicated skip here that I'm not 100% on, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. So, if it works, we'll explain it later. If it doesn't work, we'll moan and grind our teeth and then explain it.
Good luck.
I think we got it.
All right. So for any people familiar with GTA 5 speedruns, this game actually has a very similar feature. Well, I guess a glitch, where if you if the player character, so Arthur here, like starts any kind of dialogue while they're on fire, the game just skips those bits of dialogue entirely. Like it just like it in the game it considers those lines to like have been finished and spoken. So like you can skip a lot of dialogue extremely quickly with that, but it's obviously very risky. In that case, we had to hit like a certain checkpoint trigger in the mission while we were on fire just before dying, and yeah, that went pretty much perfectly to my eyes. So hell yeah, well done, Archie.
So kind of like the gist there is, you're trying to kind of like shake the guy down, which will involve a lot of screaming and punching him, and eventually eventually he will kind of like cower on the floor and just say no, 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 and that kind of like sets the checkpoint for looting the house. And then there's like a big dialogue after that, where they discuss Arthur looting the house. So obviously, if you just skip the dialogue, you know, if you fail and reset the checkpoint, you are going to spawn in where I did at the looting stage. So the normal speedrun way of doing it is placing yourself so you can't like you can't walk to him and punch him, and you can like just do the talking bits, which is obviously faster. But the fastest is what we did, and blocked out all the dialogue and actions, and just kind of like died and then started looting. So what we're doing here is we are, as part of this debt collection mission, we get a tutorial on upgrading the camp. We're going to start by upgrading to Dutch's tent. Dutch having a nicer tent makes other people contribute more money to the camp, because trickle down works. We don't really care about that, it's just we have to get this one first. And once we've unlocked the Dutch's camp, we are able to upgrade our own camp, which will give us the fast travel. So we walk right back. Do y'all want to explain the kind of like the checkpoint skip on Kieran here?
Oh gosh. Yeah. So in a second, Archie's gonna start talking to Kieran, who's here at the camp. And like as soon as the conversation starts, the game will consider like the mission to have started, and you can then immediately like pull up the menu, abandon the mission, and like retry from checkpoint, which will actually completely skip like the introductory cutscene of the mission. There's actually a little bug that happens with that makes this unviable for like full game runs, but for chapter runs, this is fantastic. It like skips the intro cutscene and immediately puts us in the mission.
Hope you ain't trying to trick us, O'Driscoll.
I ain't no O'Driscoll.
Yeah, so this the issue with it is there are very famous throwing knives that every runner of this game loves, because in this mission Bill will not shut up about the throwing knives, not ever. And skipping that actually means you don't get them, which is strange. It also breaks a later fight in a way that's going to be in our favor, but we'll get to that when we get there. Just gonna ride ahead here. You have to be kind of careful how far ahead you get here, because if you abandon your, if you abandon your buddies, your friendship has failed pretty much. Very contentious piece of the mission design in this game for sure, but I think it kind of makes sense.
It does make sense for such a a cinematic, very story-driven game. But yeah, at the same time, you know, some people do like take issue with that. But like a lot of this, a lot of these kind of like, you know, rides and like traveling sequences, they can feel a bit railroady. And yeah, for speedrunning, it can be like a bit intimidating because like basically every single mission is like a little bit different. Like every single mission has its own kind of things you need to watch out for. Like yeah, sometimes you know you're riding ahead of them, and how far ahead should you really be? Like it can be fairly intimidating.
That's what he says. Come on.
I'm taking you to him.
All right, so we skipped the first voice line where Bill informs us that he's put throwing knives in our saddlebag, which is you know, probably hanging a lampshade on, you know, it being very much a tutorial mission, but it's also entertaining to imagine Bill just sneaking throwing knives in your saddlebag because he's too shy to give them to you directly or something.
What the O'Driscoll smell like before you asked me to ride with him.
Yeah, we actually do not have those now, so.
With us, she was told.
I smell like
Big
the
bad
stove ain't been
Bill,
cleaned out
fierce
in a month.
confrontation with
I
Arthur.
smell like the up there about as long.
You'd be smelling worse if we'd done what someone's arguing for.
So this is,
Granted,
like Kenzie was touching on, there are a couple of different styles of ride in the game. Usually it depends on who's kind of like, to use that term from like The Lost and Damned, it kind of depends on who's the road captain, right? So in this case it's John who's like carrying our captive O'Driscoll member here. O'Driscoll's being the rival gang. So he's kind of like setting the pace for the ride. And that means we are kind of, you know, we are expected to kind of fall in line with him. And then other missions, it will be Arthur who's like leading the ride. And then you can just, you know, you can just haul ass as fast as you want, and it's fine. That's basically like the distinction, is kind of like who is in charge of that, you know, who's in charge of the movement. And that determines a lot of how you're able to do the ride yourself. I don't think getting ahead here actually does anything, but there's a long ride, and it's when you've done like you know, your 100 runs of this or whatever, you get pretty tired of this ride, so you do what you can to spice it up.
you're out for yourselves.
See? This is why you're an O'Driscoll.
Probably the strangest issue I've seen with this mission, doing it, trying to, you know, wiggle around and find speed up and such, is I've failed the checkpoint, reset here, and then Bill immediately spawned in the middle of a pack of wolves, and he rode off solo into the distance, shooting the wolves, while Arthur, John, and Kieran just kept riding to the enemy fight. It was very strange, and we just kind of had to wait for Bill to like take the wolves on a big gunfight around that whole mountain, and then arrive at the same place anyway. It was extremely strange.
This game has a lot of quirks, I think, with
Yeah.
the way it fundamentally works, because it's such a complex world, casually, and all these systems that are being like fought against with speedrunners.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely kind of like what makes this run interesting to me. It's like, there's a perception that Red Dead 2 is kind of like too slow of a game to speedrun, and I agree, it's slow. But there's also kind of like, if you imagine kind of like the drama structures of the game... Oh, right, wait, I need to do this. So because we broke the mission earlier, normally we will kind of like sneak up to an overhanging position, look over the enemy camp, and then start fighting from stealth. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna just kind of like shoot, because the checkpoint, you can see the red on the map now. The checkpoint skip at the start kind of breaks this, so the enemies are spawned in even before you get to the sneaking part, which is great for us because that means now that we kind of like got aggro on them, they're gonna like move closer into better positions. We won't have to run as far, you know. Also, apparently they didn't dismount, which is interesting. And we still get a cutscene, it's totally broken.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so doing it this way means that first off, we don't have to bother with the whole getting out of stealth mode at the start bit. The second aspect is that because the enemies have been aggroed, we've kind of had like a line of sight on them. Or rather, because we didn't have a line of sight on them. They kind of like have to move closer, which puts a lot of them in more opportune positions for fighting. So we don't have to like run into the whole camp. And there are like 3 main things to take care of here in this fight. First is the main force around these tents. Then the reinforcements, which are coming from... Was there someone here? No. Oh, he died. Then there's like some reinforcements coming from this direction. Like you. Right. And normally more dudes spawn in here, but they didn't. So...
You'll love to see it.
Yeah, okay. So now we're just gonna kind of like get the shotgun here. We're going to clean it for about half a second. Good as new. And then just take the money, because in this game everyone stores money in their chimney, which I personally feel is not a good idea for paper money, but... Look, I'm not a banker, I don't know how these things work.
Definitely unconventional hiding place.
Yeah. They specifically even say that in the cutscene, like, hey, make sure you check the fireplace, that's where everyone has their money. That's kind of like a tutorial tip for burglars and such, but it still sounds completely ridiculous. Alright. And now we get to try out our new fast travel we bought. Yeah, so what I was saying about kind of like speedrunning this game is, it is definitely a slow game, per se. But it's not that it's necessarily a bad or slow run. Because there's kind of like a challenge of its own, because it's not inflexible, right? The game tries to do a lot of the dramatic scripting in a way that isn't like 100% set in stone. Like the bit where we kind of like wiggle free when arriving at Valentine earlier with the women and with Uncle, and then walk to the store before Uncle can get there. You know, it's not like the game failed us. It's not like we were like totally forced to stay behind him. But there was a certain amount of wrestling against like these kind of like existing drama structures. And what makes this a very interesting speedrun to me is like a lot of these structures kind of like support you fighting them. So it's a lot of like wrestling the game, which has its own kind of like challenge or draw to it.
I think another beauty of these kind of speedruns too is you never know in which way it could be broken as well, because it's so well made and designed and things, and then those systems tend to be, as you said, like you're wrestling with it, and there's always something to find with it, you know?
Yeah, we keep finding new things. Small ones usually, but we still do.
But all the small things add up very fast.
They do. Also, what am I doing? Where am I? Help.
That horse does not want you to leave.
Apparently not. So, after that gunfight we just had, a letter spawns on Arthur's kind of like bedside table from his ex, and later on the game will give you like a little mission marker about it. But it does spawn immediately after it, so you can like pick it up if you happen to see it, and that's what we do just because we want to prepare for doing that mission later. And this mission, Lenny here, is kind of like the youngest member of the gang. Like, he's been, like, active for, like, a couple of months. And he and Micah, a more senior member, were kind of, like, out scouting to the west. And Lenny's explaining how they went drinking with people, and then there was murder. And Micah's, like, in jail, and Lenny barely got away. So he kind of, like, comes back, and he's like, help, help, help. They got Micah. What do I do? The law are after me. And Arthur and Dutch, they're kind of, like, two of the leaders, who have been around for like decades at this point. They don't really care, so they're like, okay, maybe before we deal with the whole Micah situation, you know, Arthur, you should take Lenny out for a drink. Let him calm down. Which is a very nice idea, so we are gonna go drinking with him. And we just run really fast. Lenny's way behind, but when he realizes we are at the bar, he will helpfully teleport.
Gotta get to that bar nice and fast.
Yeah.
Just one or two, right, Arthur?
Thank you.
And as they're enjoying their drink, a local witch chat monster is right next to them. He's going to hit him with his best Kappa jokes.
I mean, I done seen a lot of crazy,
Oh, God.
crazy
Causes
stuff.
a lot of crazy, crazy stuff. Will you shut up? Will you shut up?
Be quiet, buddy.
Oh, they're dullards. My lord, you men is dull.
And leave this fool alone.
Alright, so we're going to hit him with the 24-hour timeout here.
People been leaving me alone for the late. Buddy, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna rip your head clean off your shoulders. Is that clear? Get out of here. Clear? Clear. Very clear. I'm on my way.
Alright, I'm back to drinking. So time passes, they drink some more, and then suddenly we realize, where is Lenny, actually?
Lenny! Lenny? Hey, Lenny! Lenny, where are you?
We will press F to Lenny. This mission tends to be the favorite of most people that play this game. It's just a very goofy, like, out there mission, with a lot of kind of, like, memeable lines and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember being really like, this is, you know, weird. Cool, though. It definitely, I didn't get through it so fast or casually. I remember it taking forever.
Yeah, if you don't know how the mission works, it takes some time to kind of like figure out how to find them and so on.
Yeah, like for right now, it was basically just walk right to where Lenny is, but definitely in like the next sequence, yeah, you have to really kind of know like what the game wants from you.
Yeah.
Very specific.
Alright, we are taking a leak outside, but we're going to ignore that and just run in, and we're going to keep looking for Lenny. At this point, Arthur is very inebriated, so everyone looks like Lenny, and you confront them for being Lenny, and they will inform you that they are in fact not Lenny. You can see the faces change.
There you are, Lenny. Lenny, what are you talking about? Been looking all over for you,
It's time to
Lenny.
spin.
Yep. And the idea is kind of like when you're in certain areas of the saloon, Lenny will kind of like spawn behind you. That's why they force the first person at that segment. So once we have the requisite 5 Lennys uncovered, we just start spinning and force him to spawn right behind us immediately. We have a little bit of a slap fight. We establish we're good friends, and then we meet the witch chat guy again. And we are just gonna try to drown him, and then immediately fail, so he gets away. That's the fastest solution. Have a bit of a roll around in the mud, because why not? At this point, everyone's so annoyed with us that, you know, the law is showing up. We are going to do our best to get away, which means we are actually not going to get away. Because we do want to be arrested for speedrun sakes.
Right into the plank.
Yeah. It's a real classic.
You alive?
And we wake up feeling not so good. I think actually I am going to just fast travel normal with the strawberry. As you remember, I got a bounty earlier. And it takes some time to pay the bounty, but at that point you might as well just kind of like fast travel, because he will also be like better placed when you arrive in Strawberry. Which is where we're going next. That's where Micah is jailed, the guy we just heard about.
And that goes from one of the most popular missions in the game to one of the most hated missions in the game. Because if
Yeah.
we could just not do this one tiny thing, our fate could be changed in such a grandiose way.
Yeah, Micah is definitely the loose cannon of the gang. You might wonder, like, well, what makes a criminal a loose cannon? Like, everyone in the gang is already, you know, thieves and killers and robbers and whatever. But you'll see soon enough. Another benefit of doing this is actually kind of marathon safe to kind of like take the fast travel. Because when you take the carriage, you have to cross this bridge, which usually has like 8 people on it, and you end up tipping one of them in the river and getting wanted, and that disables the mission.
Hello, sir.
Oh, that's
Come from Blackwater?
It's a real classic.
Yeah, for some reason that bridge is just always busy.
Yeah. All right. Let's get Mike out of there.
it's funny. This one's like not a very liked mission because I remember loving this one. I was like,
Yeah.
when it started to pop off for me.
Yeah, as a mission, it's very fun.
But as speedrunners, maybe not them.
As a speedrun mission, this one is awful, actually. There are some very tightly placed checkpoints here, because Micah is made of glass. And if you get too far ahead of him, or if you let him get shot too much, he just straight up dies. There you go. So yeah, we should be getting away, but Micah has his favorite handguns have been taken by a friend of his who lives here. So he has to get those back, which means we are gonna basically kill the entire town, as you do. Get some more Deadeye in. Okay.
And as well, no matter how far we get away from Micah's encounter in that house, for him to get his sidearms back, no matter how far away you get, you always get like the encounter at full volume, so you can really hear how well, yeah, how awful that encounter is, really.
Yeah. So we do that, by the way, because while we have kill cams off in general, there are some scripted kill cams in certain missions, and that's one. And we just kind of like don't want to spend like 5 seconds looking at how badass Arthur is shooting someone from like, 20 meters away. So we just throw a dynamite, which does not have a kill cam feature for it. Like, the game doesn't know how to dramatically present throwing dynamite at someone, so it just doesn't happen.
Reminds me of like throwing dynamite or whatever on Fallout with the vats, and it's just a wet fart.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. If you remember the fireball skip from before, that's gonna happen again as well.
Exactly. There's just a little, a fairly short ride, just with a few more lawmen kind of spawning behind you, and yeah, if Archie manages to say like, yeah, do this section cleanly enough, then we can hopefully basically wipe away all the like the dialogue that kind of wraps up the mission between Micah and Arthur, and end the mission a lot faster than it would otherwise, and also in a more fortunate location.
So we gotta get this done before he gets to this little junction here.
That was some good shooting, Morgan. Whew, I gotta hand it to you.
No, we didn't quite get it. It was close, but we didn't get the fast one, I think.
Shame.
God, his whole body
Yeah. It's pretty grim.
climbing on the horse too.
And the fire just consumes you entirely, and somehow none of it like spreads to the horse, which is a good thing, but also a little confusing.
Yeah. So basically, this mission is meant to end in a big argument between the two. Because they are very opposed in their mentality in helping the gang. Arthur is very much like the stern uncle, and Micah is more like the sociopath. So they don't really see eye to eye on a lot of things. And we just kind of skip that argument with the with the fire bottle there. And if you can do it soon enough, the first checkpoint to kind of like end the mission is at that crossroads that we kind of like set ourselves on fire at. And if you do it fast enough, basically, you know, you do it before the checkpoint and the mission will end there. But we missed it, so we had to kind of like ride to the next one. It saves a little bit of time, but it's, you know, it's not a disaster or anything.
Now is the time to kind of lean back your chair and chill
Yep.
out for like
4 minutes.
yeah, a considerable amount of time for sure.
So we are actually back at Blackwater, where that failed heist happened here. You might recognize Blackwater from Red Dead 1, if not from this game. And
The government or people who
so the kind of like the gist of it is that when the robbery went wrong, most of the gang fled. A couple of people are missing in action. One of them is Sean, who is mentioned here. And after that big fight in the mud with Tommy and Valentine, we kind of like heard from Trelawney here, who's like the gang con man, that Sean is alive and he's held by bounty hunters. So Trelawney, Javier, and Charles, 2 other gang members, head down to Blackwater to kind of like very quietly scope the place out, and they get a lead on maybe Sean being on this boat. We can clearly see Sean from here. If we use the scope, we could hear him clearly. But they kind of like, they just want to ride along a little bit and make sure it's Sean. So we're just kind of tailing the boat here.
That is pretty fantastical magnification technology that you can hear further away with a scope in 1899, something like that. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, if it's the same thing when you're parking a car, you know, you want to turn down the radio so you can do it right. So this is kind of like an auto-scroller ride. Trelawney here is, you know, the quote-unquote road captain I called it before. We can get a little bit ahead, but we shouldn't get too far, because it's actually possible to fail. Yes, Trelawney. It's actually possible to fail if you get too far ahead. We also want him to say a specific dialogue line where he says that he heard... Yeah, this bit.
transfer before continuing out west. I imagine that's where they're headed.
Alright, so the bounty hunter camp is probably where we're heading to, kind of like, free Sean. And they will be pulling in here, so we are just gonna get our sound magnifying scope here. Or binoculars, rather. And we're just gonna kind of like scope out the scene here.
Hey, they're stopping.
Sean is being very disagreeable, but that's Sean for you.
Binoculars, gentlemen.
Pay attention to the edges of the binoculars here. It always kind of cracks me up when it like very clearly switches from like a player controlled sequence to, there you go, to a cutscene.
Yeah. It also, I really enjoy how in the cutscene you have to be in a specific point. So when it switches to the cutscene, you can see from the movement how your entire horse is like being slid over to the correct place.
Well, you can only imagine the shit he's been giving them.
Oh yes.
They're taking him up the canyon.
There's Charles on the other side.
There's Charles on the other side. Let's go.
Alright.
What about the other 2 down there?
So, here's the bit that really gets every runner once, is this checkpoint. We are still on the first checkpoint of the mission at this point. Trelawney will present a plan of attack, and then Javier will say okay. And the checkpoint updates after he says okay. Not before, not during the word okay. And I've definitely seen runners like kind of like shoot during the word okay. And that's too soon, so they kind of like quote-unquote detect you too early and you restart the mission.
Quietly if we can.
It hurts a lot.
It's truly heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah,
This
that's
one.
one of those traumatizing mistakes that you never make again.
Yeah. Everyone gets one, right?
Exactly, because yeah, just the like it's such a small thing. You can literally fire milliseconds too early and lose the entire time it took to do that right.
Yeah.
We have another big shooting sequence where Archie makes ample use of the Deadeye mechanics. Where if you weren't aware, by the way, every time you land a shot with Deadeye open, it reloads your gun. Or is it actually, maybe I misspoke, as soon as you open Deadeye, just as soon as you start it reloads your gun.
Yeah, it's when you start. Which makes sense, because, you know, you don't want to have, like, a big drama scene where the player's like, now I will use my super cool bullet time to destroy the enemies. And then it starts with Arthur just kind of, like, reloading 25 bullets in his repeater. You know, that's not very fun.
Well, yeah,
Every
let's
time.
make another comparison to Fallout's VATS
Yeah, I
there.
was
Yeah.
gonna say, every time you mention this, I'm like thinking of the bad examples in Fallout. It does make you appreciate how well designed this game is, though, mechanically and everything. They kind of thought of everything. Well, maybe not.
I mean, yeah, I think this is a very well-developed game. It's just, like, especially when you watch, like, 100% speedruns, like, then you start, like, zooming into specific mechanics so much, because, of course, like, you're trying to push mechanics to their limits to go the
Yeah.
absolute fastest, and then you do notice, like, how things can break. So it's, yeah, it's a matter of perspective, I suppose. Yeah.
There you go. I think definitely the thing that I tend to say the most in defense of this game is this game isn't like I don't think this game is poorly made, but I think the game has been made with several decisions that people disagree about. I think that's kind of like a valuable difference as well. Like, you know, like people dislike the kind of like drama beats in missions, but that doesn't really mean they were done ignorantly or, you know, without thinking. It means that, you know, they thought and just picked a different option.
It's interesting because I feel like I'm the casual perspective because I love this game. Like, it's one of my favorites. And every decision they made just worked for me. It helped absorb me into it more and more. But as a speedrunner or things, those things are going to be super tedious after a while. And you're going to start to see, like, you know, the bad decisions.
Yeah, definitely a shout out to the lasso in this game, which has a tendency to break in incredible ways if you're, like, moving too fast. I don't know how many times I've seen someone like Riggy, Fresh Riggy, run Hundo and try to, like, lasso a bounty, but the game has just been like, nope, 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 nope. Here we got a gun dive, because another thing that every speedrunner gets one of is if you try to jump to kind of like get the buildings faster, like here for example, jump is also obviously the key for jumping, which means if we try to like jump here, Arthur would just leap up, grab onto the awning, and climb onto the ceiling, or onto the roof, which is a bit unfortunate. So that's why we gun dive instead, which is not as fast, but it means we don't end up towering over the local landscape.
Yeah. So we meet Mary again for the first time in probably many years. We select the correct dialogue option, and then we get the heck out of there.
Yeah. Kind of like the story beat is Mary's Arthur's ex, who like went on to remarry, because turns out that having your boyfriend be like a huge like gang leader that's wanted in like every state is not very stable for your home life, so they split up. And she kind of like hasn't been in touch with him for a long time. And then she just gets back in touch, and her brother is in trouble, so that's kind of like what that is about. And we just take the option to not help him, which the game doesn't really punish you for anything.
Whatever do you want? Mr. Thomas Downs?
Speaking of debt collection,
Oh, no, I'm...
we weren't speaking of debt collection, but we were earlier. This is another one of those missions. This is kind of like the big one. We're just gonna try to shake down this guy for money.
Please, no.
Then we have a cutscene where nothing bad whatsoever happens, and then we're heading back to camp.
Yeah, this really does highlight why, well, I think a number of people would agree that, like, Chapter 2 is, like, a very, like, I guess, pivotal part of the game. Like, it's, well, yeah, it's, I think it's the most popular, like, segmented, like, speedrun chapter. Because, yeah, exactly, like, we free Micah, we have this very pivotal, very important moment happen. And, yeah, a lot of people's favorite missions, the one with Lenny, like, yeah, like, Chapter 2 is a real highlight.
Yeah, as a speedrun, go.
Sorry, I was just gonna say there's a lot of action in this chapter compared to like throughout.
Yeah, and personally, as a speedrun, I think it's the most interesting one because it's got like the most like moving parts. And how to put it, there's like, because every mission is kind of like an advanced tutorial, basically. They don't have too much interconnectedness, so you have more control of which order you do things, you know. Features get unlocked halfway, so they affect your routing, so on. And the later chapters, they're fun, but they don't have the same kind of like mobility in what you do, I guess.
Uncle told me something about a train.
I think
Yeah, that's
moving
fair.
parts is probably the way I'd put it, yeah.
Mary Beth over
Yeah,
at
one of the I think first like big, I guess, yeah, skips or like big like strategy changes that was found is actually what we're kind of poking our heads into right now is the pouring forth oil mission, which yeah, should I talk about that right now? I suppose like it well, yeah, it
Yeah,
skips
yeah.
yeah, you skip a whole sequence by basically lining up your mission order in a certain way.
Yeah,
Which yeah,
so
like it'll be like highlighted a little bit later in the run.
yeah, so the big thing here is we just had that little conversation with John. And he mentions having a plan for robbing a train, and they kind of like discuss it a bit, and it ends with Arthur's job being to kind of like steal an oil wagon, like a big like tanker wagon full of oil, you know, just a normal one. But that takes time, you know, and it turns out that the game has a built-in skip for this, and it's a really arcane skip. Most people never knew it existed. But if you do things instead of stealing the oil wagon, you can stumble across like a thing where the game just goes, see John about the oil wagon, and you go there and he's like, you know, you're dragging your feet, Arthur, I took care of it. And we skip it by not doing it, which is kind of, sounds very simple on the surface. But it has an actual very complicated setup that I'm actually going to take credit for figuring out, because when I started this game, well, okay, I'm going to take credit for, like, routing Chapter 2. Very modest here. But I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how the wagon skip works. Because the instructions when I started they were basically a cargo cult. Because people knew some ways to do it that kind of worked most of the time. But the kind of like the underlying idea wasn't really known. So what you gotta do to do the skip is you gotta have completed that discussion with Mary we had where we turned her down. I think you also have to have collected the debt from Downs, the guy we beat up just now. You have to pass at least 4 in-game hours, and then you have to complete a mission. And if you meet all those criteria, after that John conversation, then the game is just like, okay, go back and talk to him. And I like messed around with it a lot. I DM'd the Red Dead 2 developer on Twitter about it. And I was like, please, can you like give me a single pointer about how this works? Help. Please. And he was like, sure, I'll see if I can say anything. And then he never got back to me, so either he forgot or he just wasn't allowed to say anything.
Aw.
Honestly, I was surprised enough that he even had an initial response, so...
Yeah, I mean, he probably wanted to. I imagine there's like trade secrets. Ooh.
Yeah, probably an NDA contract. You would usually have those, so... So this is our kind of like our stabling tutorial here. We learn how to buy a horse. In the kind of like prepping the save file. Oh, let me explain this quick first. We're waiting to read out here until Hosea talks. Yeah, there. So NPCs in this game are terrified of horses for some reason. You can ride if you ride a horse within like 20 meters of someone and you do it a bit too fast, they'll just be like, "Whoa, hellfire!" It's you know it's kind of endearing, but in this case we want to wait for Hosea to be talking before we ride out of the stables, because if he isn't talking, then he's gonna go whoa, and that obviously delays the dialogue. It's a bit entertaining, but yeah. I think anyone who's played this game for like more than 2 minutes can tell you that NPCs are like always ready to shoot you if your horse looks at them weird. They will just like pull out 2 handguns and start blasting.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, speaking of the save file prep, which we haven't touched on really, but it's kind of like the fundamental problem with doing chapter runs is like, where do you start, right? What's the starting point? And you know, kind of like the direct answer would be, well, obviously you start with your save file from completing chapter 1, which has several problems. One of being you have to kind of like verify that someone's save file is legit. Like if I loaded my game and it was just Arthur standing somewhere, and I went like, okay, well I just completed chapter 1, it would be very difficult to prove that I haven't like somehow bought items or looted items or hunted or anything like that, you know. So kind of like the decision is instead that, you know, as long as you haven't done any of the missions actually needed for the chapter, you can prepare. And that kind of like just gives everyone like a free starting point to customize however they want to have things.
Yeah, exactly. So like it kind of gives you a sort of a limitation, I suppose, that it's not like the chapter runs are not fully like representative of that chapter how it appears in like a full game run, like an any percent. But it does allow us to like go a lot more in depth in the chapter runs. Like the routing can get a lot more interesting. For example, the mission like quite a while ago, paying a social call with Kieran, where like there are strats that are that save time in the chapter run, but maybe aren't viable for any percent. So that do make these runs that we're doing more interesting.
Sure. Try and shoot one.
Good job.
Bit slow on that one, but
Right. It's getting late. Reckon we should camp here.
Sure.
Alright.
Well, then you get us set up.
So yeah, this mission is basically just we're going hunting with Hosea for a huge bear, which is basically the intro to legendary animals.
Fine by me.
Which I forget how many there are. I think like 16. 16 in the game. This kind of like introduces the concept. So it also has like this crafting
You want some of this?
tutorial here.
I'm fine. I don't like eating this.
So we fry up our little rabbit we just shot, we eat it,
All right.
and we go to bed.
Well, we better get some rest. I want to be up at first light to find this.
Just mashing the E and space keys here. There you go.
He better be worth all this drama.
I agree, Arthur. I agree. So yeah, for example, the horse prep, you actually have to be a little bit tricky about some things. Like, Normally, for example, I said this mission is where you unlock stables, but we have used them before. Well, I can like exploit the game a little bit. Dual wielding is normally unlocked by the Micah jailbreak thing, but you know, obviously we had dual wielding since the start of the run, so that can also be done in certain ways. And you know, it's kind of fun in its own way, kind of like figuring out what you can do to improve your starting point. You know, where do you get money for, you know, all your cool guns and stuff. So it's like a little like a mini effort of its own. The horse I start with is actually the Black Arabian, which is one of the fastest horses in the game. And that one's like from a very missable random event in Saint Denis, which doesn't even appear in this chapter of the game yet. It's like in chapter 4 you go there, I think. Yeah, 4. So there's a lot of like tweaking to kind of like get your perfect setup. Of course, once you have every feature unlocked after chapter 2, it gets a lot easier. But for chapter 2, you have to kind of like be tricky.
Staying in, it's hard. You know that. But Bessie and I made it work. Why? You thinking?
So yeah, this is gonna be an intro to the tracking segment of the game, where you use your kind of like your special hunting vision and local clues to kind of like track down where a legendary animal is. So if y'all want to explain kind of like what I'm doing here while I do it, Cole.
I don't know how it works. So I
yeah, I think right now, yeah, we're still tracking the animal. So yeah, basically the Deadeye is when you like while you're using guns, and then while you're not using a gun, you have Eagle Eye, which yeah helps you like track animals. That's pretty much it. It helps you track animals.
Yeah, we're also staying on horseback here because you know, we find all these traces like bear shit or whatever. And they have like big involved animations for them where Arthur kind of like leans down, looks very close, all that. If you stay on horseback, the game's just like, okay, you don't have an animation. And Arthur just kind of like looks at the ground and goes like, yep. So you want to stay on horseback for that whole segment, which is why we jumped over the rocks at the start. Because if you go the way Hosea did, the game forces you to dismount for the tracking. But we refuse. And here's the legendary bear.
That was again just like a very specific sequence of like knowing where the checkpoints are. It's like you walk forward into that little highlighted area, and then like casually you would just keep going in the same direction until I think Hosea screams, and then you like turn around. But yeah, exactly. Like knowing the triggers is a very important part of speedrunning this.
Yeah.
And here, yeah, like funnily enough, like Hosea asks like if we want to like ride back to camp together, but it's actually, yeah, I think it's faster to just stay, open up a camp, and just fast travel.
There's actually related to, we just did the oil wagon skip there, that was mentioned earlier, and one thing about it is you cannot trigger it, you can't trigger it at camp, that's the problem. Because it involves, you know, like John suddenly being at his tree, leaning against it with his plants in his hand, you know, all that. And the game won't actually trigger the skip if you're too close to camp, because you know, it would be weird to, like, you know, see John, like, slide across the ground or teleport or whatever, and suddenly just be there, you know? So the game won't actually complete the skip if you're too close, because it won't, like, change the scene, so to speak. You know, it won't go from, like, John is guarding to John is leaning on a tree. So, if we ride back to camp with Hosea, we ride back to camp, we talk, and then the mission ends, and then we're at the camp, so the skip doesn't happen. But when we say we stay, we are, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, so the skip happens just fine, and then we fast travel ourselves. It's a weird distinction, but
yeah, it makes sense when you explain it. Yeah.
all right. Anyway, we have to sleep anyway because it's a party. Sean's coming back party. I forgot about that.
Right. Yeah. Everyone in the camp wants to celebrate Well, specifically, yeah, you can see Dutch is coming up to us and
Yeah.
saying, "Yeah, we're gonna have a big party. All right, awesome. I'm gonna go straight to bed."
Yep, mood. We're having a party. Goes to bed. And yeah. There we go. Hold on. So now we can see John is back at the tree. We actually want to sleep tonight to kind of like optimize the start of the next mission as well. He's gotta talk to John, and he's gonna be like,
You busy, Arthur?
"You never got that wagon."
Never got us that oil wagon, did you? I'm sorry. I clean forgot. Don't worry. It's taken care of. Otherwise, we'd miss that train. Thank you.
Alright. And with that, we are going to do the next mission. So, kind of like if you played Red Dead 1, you know, like, the Marstons, because, you know, John is the protagonist. There's Abigail, his wife, and Jack, his son. And at this point of the story, John is kind of like a deadbeat dad. He doesn't really want to be a dad or anything.
Probably.
And he and Abigail are having a rough patch and all that, so Arthur, being like a close friend and camp uncle of Abigail, is going to kind of like be the surrogate father here for a bit. We're gonna go fishing with Jack,
What you up to?
which is a nice time.
Anything fun?
And this is the most important part of the game,
Come fishing.
because this unlocks the fishing minigame,
Sure.
which rules.
It's about time that you started to earn your keep.
Okay,
Good. Let's go get your pole then. Now, you do have a fishing pole, don't you?
I sure do. Uncle Jose made me one.
Good.
Just gotta wait for Jack to actually get up here.
Catch us some fish.
Yeah.
And it is fairly funny to see how little fishing you actually end up doing during this mission.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
again, yeah, like Archie knows exactly like when he needs to be fishing and when he doesn't need to be fishing. Like again, there's just these very specific triggers that you need to hit. And yeah, you'll see.
Also, we get to do the backing up,
Hold on tight.
which is a very strange bug. When a horse is kind of like told to stay put by the game,
Shouldn't go too far.
like
Feeling better?
when Arthur is like lifting Jack onto the horse,
Fine.
the game's like, absolutely do not move this horse. You know, you cannot move while Jack is being put on. You know, makes sense.
About brave.
And there is a little bug which I think
Mama might
like turns the horse into a wagon
do other women.
or something, but you can back up during that animation with the right inputs. It's like you gotta like accelerate, brake, and backwards at the same time, and your horse will like start sliding backwards for no reason.
We're going back to the other camp.
It's a bit strange, but it saves a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Well, we're not.
Yeah, it's just one of those small like movement optimizations, and yeah, it's very very interesting how that actually, or like really why that even works.
Yeah. This mission is very aggressive about like, you know, obviously there can be no like harming children or anything in this game.
Where should we stay,
So
Arthur?
if you mess up the riding, you know, if you jump over a rock or you hit a tree or anything that would like upset, you know, like
Cheese?
Jack's animation, the game would just straight up fail you. If you do a big jump, you just immediately fly to the game over screen. You don't even get like a slowed down animation of your failure like you usually do. It just cuts immediately to like failed. Jack was frightened, which is a very interesting game over message. But
How do I know when I've got a bite?
Yeah, it's pretty funny that like, because the game, like if you like ride up to a cliff or something, like normally the game is already like, you know, it really tries to like, you know, oh, the horse gets scared, you know, you can't do this. But in that, yeah, like in that state, it gets even more like protective of you. But yeah, if you manage to like ride off a cliff or something, it just like, yeah, doesn't like fade away, just instant cut to black. And yeah, it's pretty funny to see.
yeah, it's like normally the game tries to prevent you from falling head over heels down a cliff on a horseback, but on this mission there are actual invisible walls on cliffs. Like it's straight up impossible. You can't fall off. I've also had a game over where I brushed against a tree, And for the same reason, that it doesn't play animations or anything, it just went, your horse died.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
But I can definitely understand it, like, because they didn't want there to even exist animations for, like, Jack in any way being jostled or hurt. Which is reasonable. And just the lack of those animations means that there is no, like, slow down or drama fade or anything. You just got straight to the game over because it doesn't know what to do when that happens. Like, they straight up do not exist. Right? He's gonna sit down, and then we cast again. Fishing sure is boring.
See that cast, Jack?
Fishing sure is
That's the line we wanted to hear.
I know. Born as hell.
So yeah, it's pretty funny to just like constantly at the bottom of the screen you see like the tutorial dialogue for how to fish, and like yeah, you start off fishing normally, but then yeah, just with the very specific like triggers relating to what Jack is doing, you can just kind of do whatever because you're just waiting for the next trigger.
It's
Yeah.
good for you?
The end result is you wanna catch your first fish ASAP.
Hey, look at this.
And what?
Then Jack is gonna go work on a flower necklace. You just wanna kind of like preserve the kind of like fishing state, so he keeps advancing his stuff. And then once he sits down to build the actual necklace from the flowers he picked, you gotta cast, and he'll go like, fishing sure is boring. And that's kind of like the cue for.
Why did
Oh
you
no.
say about where Uncle
Oh,
Jack
phew. I almost thought I'd get it there, but I didn't.
Those are disagreeable,
Uh,
man. And I don't want them to
yeah,
Classic horse movement.
yeah, that's exactly the kind of situation where you get that whole Jack was frightened thing. But apparently he was being very brave today, so good job, Jack.
I hope he's just fine where he is. Like I
Yeah, so basically you just kind of like want to focus not on the fishing or anything, you just want to focus on getting Jack to pick his flowers and make his necklace as soon as possible, because that's the actual, that's the script that ends the mission.
that necklace you made. You still got it, right?
Yeah, I got it.
So, in the cutscene we skipped just now, we get approached by two Pinkerton agents, like federal detectives, except they're
It's a lot
more like private detectives, but they are working for the government, that kind of thing. And it's kind of like, the heat is on for the gang, right? That's kind of like the thing there. And we are going to slide across the ground. I don't know why it happens, but it always happens.
and I need
It's time to
Whoop! Good slide. I've only once managed to not get it, and it was very disappointing. But yeah, so at this point in the we've had multiple bar fights. We have stolen oil wagons. We have freed Micah from jail by like killing like 30 law officers, whatever. So the Pinkertons gonna show up, and they don't know where the camp is, but they just happen to like spot Arthur and Jack while they're fishing, and they come over and try to intimidate him into selling out the gang, and obviously he refuses. But they it's meant to signal kind of like that the gang is definitely still being hunted. They're a very notorious gang even before the kind of like botched ferry job. And it's only a matter of time before they are, like, pinned down near Valentine. But for now, Dutch advises, the gang just not make any sudden moves, or they will, like, play right into it. So that's what we're doing. We are going to cause a stampede of cows, apparently. And head over here.
Earlier during the chapter, well, yeah, there's already two sequences where we were
Oh.
kind of. Oh god. Oh no.
I'm getting bounty hunted, I think.
Oh god. Yeah, that might be it. So yeah, you can see like the red threat, threat indicator. Yeah, that's bounty hunters. There's a threat indicator on the minimap where you can see. Yeah, apparently there's sadly some bounty hunters coming our way, which immediately breaks or despawns any missions from happening.
Okay, take it
So you can see like the mission givers just immediately ran away.
Yeah, I think the fastest
that's
option here is just to kind of like surrender, so we're going to do that. Surrendering will pay off your bounty. That's a bit of a time loss, and definitely... I don't think I've had that happen to me before, but I also don't get the bounty overall very often. That's one down for that's never happened before.
Yeah, that's a real shame. Yeah, I thought like we would be like at a low enough bounty that such would not happen, but yeah, no, that's a shame. But yeah, no, it's fairly minor in the grand scheme of things. Like for a marathon, it's okay.
Yeah. It's maybe like 2 minutes.
Yeah, so now yeah, Archie can just like fast travel back to Emerald Ranch, I'm pretty sure, and just yeah, basically resume what we were doing. It's like I
Yep.
was saying, yeah, we've had several missions before that kind of like try to coax you into like taking the stealth approach, and yeah, this is the first proper what's the term, like yeah, specific like home robberies, like homestead robberies.
Burglaries.
That's yeah, thank you. And we are once again going to completely ignore it. Sorry to spoil. Once again, there is a fast option, and we are taking the fast option.
We're just taking the coach back to Emerald Ranch because all other things not considered, coach is actually easily the fastest way to get around. I don't know why, but when you do fast travel from like your camp or from your tent, the game insists on giving you the big like overview animation of like, here's Arthur riding along a river, here's Arthur riding on top of a mesa, how did you get up there, Arthur? And all this stuff. And with the coach, you just kind of like get there.
Yeah, again, it's like being very cinematic about like you know, Arthur alone on the trail, but yeah, it doesn't have like specific like shots and little cutscenes like that for the stagecoach, so it's
Yeah.
a little faster. And also, of course, like to fast travel from any location, like just now when Archie like spawned inside Valentine, he would have to like leave Valentine first, like go into the quote unquote wilderness to then set up a camp. So
Yeah.
yeah, being in a city or like, you know, populated area, yeah, the stagecoach is usually a very good option.
Yeah, so we were just talking to Seamus, who will become like the wagon fence, kind of. Once we complete this mission, it's possible to steal, you know, wagons and coaches and stuff like that, and bring them to him to be fenced. And if you're playing casually, that's great money, by the way. That's probably the best way to make money for a long time. But in this mission, we just gotta kind of like steal one to prove ourselves to him. And the kind of like the plan here, the way Hosea intends it, is kind of like wait for nightfall or something, and then kind of like either sneak in the house or he'll distract the owners to sneak into the house and kind of like rob everything, then steal the wagon and get away. We're just gonna ignore all that. We're gonna ride right past the sneaking point. And we're gonna just ride up to the barn. I don't know why I took that line, but I did.
And there we go. We just grab the stagecoach, get what we came here for, make sure to pick up Hosea along the way, and just get the heck out of there.
I once, when I was doing this, I was a bit careless about stopping for Hosea, and I like ended up drifting the wagon. And I just kind of like slammed the wagon into Hosea and like, you know, sent him flying, basically. And I got like the best game over, because like when you game over normally, you know, it kind of like does the slow motion camera in, you know, sepia for a bit. And then shows the dead screen or failed or whatever. And it just kind of like throws a slow motion as like ragdolling Hosea is like flying through the air. Because he got like swatted by the side of the wagon. It was very good. There's nothing special here. We're just gonna like return the wagon back.
Here we are. Just pull the coach into the...
Apparently, there's a random horse here. Okay.
Hello, Shane.
I don't think I've seen that before, but
Cousins.
How was it?
Oh no, that's a mule. I'm pretty
Nice
sure.
people.
Yeah, one just kind of hangs out near here for some reason.
I
Yeah,
just
think it's
never
part
saw
of the
it.
farm.
Yeah, probably part of the farm. I just never saw it like there, almost in front of the
Back to camp,
doors.
I think. You coming?
Yeah.
Nah, I'll catch up with you later.
Alright, let's hope the time hasn't gone too far off here. Nope, okay, we got the spawn anyway. So part of the sleeping at the party is being kind of like particular about thinking ahead of your like time. Because it's possible to not spawn this final train robbery, which means you have to basically save and load. But we did get it correctly. I was just worried because when we got arrested and served our sentence and our stolen goods were now forfeit and then we fast traveled, you know, there's no telling what the time actually ends up being after that, so... But it was correct enough that we got the mission to spawn, so it's all good.
Well, at least it ain't your job.
Shut up, Arthur.
Good old Sean is here.
Job starting the fight.
Sean insists on joining us for the job. And, okay, it's time for the worst part of the run, by the way.
All the horses untethered?
We gotta turn through the woods without sideswiping anyone off.
You're gonna hurt the horses.
Cross your fingers.
You
Oh.
find a good spot, Wolfman? Yeah. Follow the trail southwest. There's a spot that's remote, but should still give enough
Okay, we got through.
the oil wagon.
If you, like, swipe too close to a tree, you can see John on the left and Charles on the right. They're hanging onto the wagon there. If you swipe against a tree or signpost, or anything like that, they just, like, eat shit and fly off the wagon. And, that's a bit of a problem. Because they will then slowly get up, slowly walk back to the wagon, and then clamber back on. And you're just kind of, like, waiting there, tapping your foot while they, you know, eventually recover from it.
Exactly. Like the casual or like the intended route that the GPS, I guess, is showing you. Yeah, it has like an overhanging sign over the road. I think a lot of people have seen clips or might have even experienced it themselves. That you can clock John straight in the head with that. It's very funny,
Yeah.
but also it slows you down quite a bit.
Yeah. It's definitely funny when it happens.
Join us on there.
Alright. Time to shake down some people on the train.
Everybody stay calm. Everybody will get shot.
This the cycle here for two carriages is basically John intimidates him for money. Someone doesn't want to pay, and we beat that person in the face. Then other people pay, then someone again doesn't want to pay because they didn't pay attention when the first person got smacked.
Yeah, most people
Oh.
just kind of accept what's happening, and then every once in a while someone's like, no, I will not hand you my belongings for nothing in return. And a punch in the face is suffice. It's enough to satisfy them, apparently.
Yeah.
Fair trade.
I like the expression of this guy because he doesn't say anything, but his wife is unhappy about paying us, and you can see on his face like, you know, please stop talking right now. And then he's the one who gets beat up anyway.
Yeah.
And look for the baggage car. Tough guy, huh? You sure about that? Please. I am adverse to conflict. Everything you got. Money.
Let's dual wield a bit here, just because this looks incredible when you're dual wielding, because the game doesn't expect you to. So you're just kind of like holding your guns like a rifle.
Don't be shy. Everything you got. Let's go.
This is unnecessary, please.
I am adverse to I can handle this from here. You should check on Sean. Okay.
I don't know why my second volcanic pistol is gone somewhere, but I guess I gotta change on the horse.
Christ's sake. You ain't even
Oh
taken a
god.
look yet?
Yeah, that's something that the game likes to do sometimes. Like, as far as I know, that there are like ways of maybe preventing it sometimes, but yeah, every once in a while the game is just like, no, I think you should have this gun instead, and it can be very, very upsetting.
Yeah, in this case it happens because, wasn't there supposed to be another guy? There is, but what? What on earth is happening here?
The marathon luck.
Oh gosh, yeah. Did this person hop off the train? Like, did I just see the marker like next to the train? Yeah. Well,
Where did he come from?
Overlook, can you provide the cover?
oh my god. Okay, yeah. This is normally like a fairly scripted sequence. Like these people behave like fairly like the same from run to run, but yeah, that was very odd.
Yeah, that was very strange.
Behind us! Coming in on horses!
Actually invulnerable. Okay, there we go. So normally the game wants you to kind of like escape the law and, you know, you end up going one of the roads. But it turns out that the fastest way to lose these people is quite literally cross the state lines, you know. They don't have jurisdiction, so they just kind of like don't follow you. Which is an incredible feature, but I never realized it was in the game until I saw someone do this.
Yeah, because yeah, you'll notice when playing the game as well that like if you build up a bounty somewhere, yeah, it will be specifically like it's even highlighted on the map. You will have a specific bounty in that state as soon as you move over state lines, like you are just a regular citizen again.
Yep.
It's pretty fantastic, yeah.
Alright, so we are going to Valentine, where John, who is not satisfied with the train robbery, has another job for us. It's going to be something incredible. And yeah, about the dual wielding thing, in this case it wasn't because the game presumed we wanted certain weapons, it was just because, as I mentioned, I got dual wielding in advance. And the game doesn't really expect that. There are a couple of places where the game will just kind of like not function if you have dual wielding too early.
Right.
And one thing is, when you unlock it properly by freeing Micah, yeah, I had to just be on horseback to change, that's all. The game is like, okay, well now you're able to dual wield. Now you should get a default, like, gun. And you'll kind of like by default put your sawed off in the other slot, because that's, you know, that's a safe bet, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So, feeling better? How's the scar?
I heal pretty fast.
Lucky you.
So yeah, at this point in time, I think it's fairly clear that like
You got any-
John kind of has something to prove, or well, you know, Arthur is constantly berating John during chapter 2. So yeah, John is really you know, sticking his head out, really making sure that he shows that, you know, he can make stuff happen, he can plan things and
That's
get
the
money
gift,
together for the gang.
saying things.
Oh, yeah? What do you
Yeah,
mean by that?
he is being very mysterious about this job,
Now I'm a
and
Listen,
it's actually not a bad idea for a job, but it's definitely surprising. And what he wants us to do here is,
you was at that
we are going to scare off some shepherds and steal their sheep and then sell them at an auction.
This
Which
life
is,
this way.
you know, it's probably a very good idea for a heist, but it's not necessarily what you'd expect.
Ain't
Right?
long for it.
And that's the way it goes, I guess.
For me.
So, first off, we are going to get blocked by this random dude here,
Just need to pick up
who apparently got bisected by the rains. Very good.
post over there.
So we're going to start by acquiring a sniper rifle, which is, you know, when you're shepherding, you know, like sheep, you absolutely need a sniper rifle. That's very good to have. Basic equipment.
And I love this this sequence coming up where yeah, you buy the sniper rifle here at the gunsmith, and basically like payment is not discussed at any point because, well, obviously, you know, it's for a mission. The game is forcing you to acquire this weapon, so you know it's kind of, you know, let's just speak no more about it. Here's your rifle, and just get on with the mission.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
but
actually
if you actually, oh sorry, yeah,
no, no, go
if
on.
you actually don't have the money to pay for the rifle, Arthur will like very specifically like comment on that he's like not paying for it, basically.
Yeah, he will basically shake down the shopkeeper if you can't afford it. It's a very strange bit, but
Bought that gun.
also pay attention to this because I love that they recorded both shouting and normal versions of almost all dialogue lines. So you could hear them shouting. If you're running together, they talk normally.
You was just talking about something.
I had a run-in with that fella earlier. We ain't on
I think there are also a large number of dialogue lines that have stealth variants. If you're, you know, if you're crouching and sneaking around, then you will like be whispering instead.
Why are you being so
It's a pretty interesting touch, you know, like it adds a lot of like a flair to like, you know, riding away or sneaking or whatever. But it definitely
Yeah, it's-
probably added a lot of work to them as well.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see that they like went through that extra level of effort to include that. And it's a nice like callback to San Andreas, where in some missions the characters are just yelling at each other, even though they're standing directly next to each other.
I know a pimp when I see one.
You know that as well as anyone. Same as with you and that girl.
Sorry.
What was her name? Mary?
We're just referencing San Andreas mission, which was originally recorded for being on a helicopter, and then the mission was changed to be in a car, but they never re-recorded the voice lines. So the two are just shouting at each other in the like front of the car.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, it's the yeah, it's the GTA San Andreas mission photo opportunity. You can look it up if you want to.
So after all this writing, we have finally cracked John Shell enough that he actually tells us what the job is. And he's trying to kind of like be like Dutch and very mysterious and oblique, but Arthur is having absolutely none of it, and he just roasts him constantly, so he gives up.
Doubt the town will care to notice too much.
Why we need this rifle
Which actually
you couldn't buy
to
yourself.
maybe look forward a little bit when we
Not till we know
right,
what
so
we're dealing with.
first of all, yeah, Arthur and John just scare off the people herding these sheep. And actually, what you can do, if the sheep are being, you know, a bit obnoxious and they don't really want to like join the herd, and because obviously we are still trying to go fast here. When one sheep kind of wanders off, like kind of becomes a straggler, what you can actually do is just shoot that sheep. And you know you have like a limited amount that you can shoot until the mission's like, okay, no, you're ruining it. The payout is pretty much gone, and it fails. But yeah, you actually get a pretty funny voice line if you do happen to shoot one.
Yeah, so kind of like the start of the game features John getting his famous scars by being attacked by wolves and like basically being alone in the mountains. And everyone kind of like mocks him for being attacked by the wolves. It's very strange. But it's something he doesn't really live down for a while. And I'm just going to mention it because I don't know if we will shoot any sheep here. But Arthur will basically like, if John complains about shooting sheep, Arthur will just go like, you just keep a lookout for wolves. Or just like, what is happening here?
Oh my god.
Be quicker this way. Trust me.
I can't even shoot them because that's like 3.
Exactly. Yeah, I believe once you shoot the third one, that's when the mission fails. So that's the game very clearly kind of playing a prank on Arch here.
Yep.
Quickest route back to Valentine is right around that mountain.
Okay. Like I said, I'll handle this.
You're just kind of like, you know, hurting.
Go, go!
It's also possible to kind of like shoot in the air to drive them onwards, but it's very risky. Because that also makes it very likely that they'll like separate. Because they panic.
Exactly. Like, yeah, this is honestly, yeah, this is like a very, like, on the surface, this is a bit maybe boring, just kind of riding in a straight line. But yeah, to like really try and optimize this, it's pretty interesting to be like, okay, like, are they going as fast as they possibly could be? And yeah, if you try to make them go faster, yeah, you do seem to increase the odds of them kind of separating. And yeah,
You could see there they almost split there.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see on the mini map, like when they like officially, I guess, yeah, separate from one another. Yeah, their color changes. Like they become yellow, I think, to
Yeah.
specifically indicate stragglers. So yeah, as long as like they're all still gray, even though maybe there can be a little bit of distance here and there, as long as they're still gray, yeah, they are still like a like in the script, basically like a member of the pack, and they're still like together.
Right, I think we got it, yeah. So now they're just gonna, at this point, they just kind of like auto run directly into the closure there.
Yeah. From this moment, they basically just go straight forward in. I think sometimes they can get a little bit like off to the sides when they like kind of hug the fence, but no, it's like, yeah, you're pretty much good from here.
Fine sheep.
They're okay.
We
Didn't have
get,
to shoot a single one.
yeah, very disappointing actually. But yeah, at that point, the auctioneer knows that we aren't like the real shepherds, because we're strange because we absolutely look the part, right?
It's really, really odd.
Yeah, and he takes a cut of the sheep to kind of like, yeah, 18%, and he just takes a cut so he doesn't like turn us in.
Thanks for all the help with this. Can't herd, can't swim. Give it a rest.
But yeah, the can't swim part, it's kind of funny because like, Red Dead 1 didn't have swimming, right? So as kind of like as an in-joke, John is canonically unable to swim.
Yeah. Basically, everyone is capable of swimming, and John very specifically is not.
So in the cutscene, basically, one of the industrialists that we have been robbing, Leviticus Cornwall, shows up with his like private security force, and is very much not pleased to see us. And it's kind of like I'm just gonna take the kill cam here. So kind of like the private security forces, has seized John and Strauss, and we are just gonna shoot our way out, basically.
Yeah, just another like big shootout where we basically just murder a whole town. Well, not specifically the citizens of the town. This is mostly just Pinkertons and yeah, hired agents.
Yeah.
But what I always love about that little standoff at the start is we shoot the person like holding John, and we start like shooting more of the guards behind them. But we just completely leave Strauss like to fend for himself, and he does. He does it very, very amicably, very admirably. But yeah, it's just always funny to me.
Yeah, because like Strauss, if you ignore him, he'll like save himself. If John gets left to fend for himself, he just dies.
Yeah, he just gets his throat cut, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So we kind of like want to avoid Deadeye the most we can here. Because there's Strauss, who was shot in the later exchange, is on the wagon. And we're just kind of like helping safeguard the wagon here. So basically, when we Deadeye, it's slow motion, right? And that means slowing the wagon down. So we generally try to kind of like avoid it. Of course, sometimes you want to get the aim benefits anyway. But
Yeah.
just waiting for a spawn here. Nice.
Nice. Very clean. Yeah, exactly. Like, Deadeye obviously helps a lot, you know, slow things down. I think it stabilizes your aim a lot as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And, but yeah, like, optimally, you would basically just fire 6 shots normally, and then the final shot, you open Deadeye to, you know, get the reload that we mentioned before, and, yeah, like, go through it like that. But that is obviously, that's pretty demanding if you specifically want to like optimize it that way.
Yeah, and like you can definitely see it in the normal fighting in that part, but there's like kind of like a sway you can get in your aim that is usually either because your like bars and cores are really low, like you're super hungry and you're wounded and you know all that, then your aim will shake. And the other is like kind of like scripted for missions. If you're, you know, you're being like when we're being shot at by like 8 dudes across the street, then the aim's gonna sway a lot, you know, just because you are, you know, you aren't exactly in control of the situation, right? And the biggest reason to use Deadeye is like it eliminates, you know, any sway and inaccuracy. If the reticule is on the enemy in Deadeye and you press shoot, it will always hit. And there's still variance even with like no sway in normal shooting. Though in my case I also have auto aim turned up fairly high, so that kind of like counteracts some of it. But yeah, now that we have survived Cornwall's ambush as well, even Dutch is like, okay, this is getting ridiculous, we gotta get out of here, because we are dead, basically, if we stay here.
Exactly.
So,
the Pinkertons have basically found us. Sorry.
yeah. At this point, the heat is so much that even by the time we get back, the whole gang is basically like packed up pretty well at this point. So Micah, who somehow has teleported over here to tell us of this, because we never did his second mission, so he's still at Strawberry actually. But according to Micah, who has sent a telegram, there's a promising campsite near the area where we picked up the oil wagon for the train heist, and where we would have dropped it off if we did that. So, us and Charles, who is... Honestly, Charles is a fantastic character. The most dependable member of the gang, easy, every time.
Yeah.
And us and Charles are heading out to scout out this supposed camp location. Kind of like get an idea of what it's like and whether we can move there. And Charles is kind of like struggling to keep up here, but he rubber bands pretty aggressively, so we can just, you know, go as fast as we can, and he will keep up unless he falls off, which has been known to happen. I've never had that, but it's possible that he just like brains himself on a tree stump or something.
Back to what I was talking about. We have to. Fast. We'd already.
Yeah, it's interesting like riding in this manner because yeah, again, like being kind of like the leader of the pack, like the road captain, like Archie said, while riding on your horse right now, like at some moments like the AI really kind of stops thinking and just like sticks to you in a certain way. So yeah, if you like don't pay attention and like ride kind of close to something, they can definitely just like smack straight into that.
He's been shot. Looks like
There's a corpse at the possible campsite. So we are going to check the actual camp that someone's made here and see what's going on. We are skipping the cutscene, but we are going to find hidden under the wagon is a German family, which might be a bit unexpected. And we basically very awkwardly figure out that kind of like the father of the family has been kidnapped. So us and Charles try to like track him down. And you can actually speed up this pretty well. Like if we do it right, Charles will stop occasionally and be like, "Let me just see where we're going." And if you do the tracking right at that moment, Arthur will actually correct him on what to do, which saves some time. But it's also kind of cool that they added that.
Yeah, dialogue is pretty interesting. Where it's like, because yeah, obviously like Charles is like,
Here.
I guess a very like you know, he is a tracker basically. Like this is very much like his thing. And yeah, Arthur can kind of basically like kind of show him up by just like poking his head out forward and say like, oh, they went that way, and like he will actually respond like, oh, all right, well, great. Like it's pretty like great to see that dialogue.
Give me a second. Look, they go along the shore there. I see them. So, you were saying?
It's possible to kind of like break this mission so the tracking just does not happen. But it's,
Bastards told me they'd kill
we don't know how to do it. It just happens sometimes. Sometimes the script doesn't happen, and they just ride full blast ahead, which is obviously faster. There's also a skip you can do to get to our target even faster, but if you have the tracking active, it soft locks the mission. So it would be really good to kind of like know how to break the tracking so we can take that shortcut, but we don't know how it works.
slip in and out. Oh, well. Wait a second, just closer here. They continue on that trail ahead of
Yeah,
us.
there's still a lot of things in this game where like we're pretty sure where like optimizations can still be found, but I mean, again, yeah, it is a very big, very robust game, and yeah, finding new strats is always a slow process.
Yeah.
Camp up ahead. Be careful. Seems deserted.
But yeah, at the same time, this run, like both as in Chapter 2 and just RDR2 any percent as a whole, like are still very much alive. Like things are being like optimized and new strats are being found like basically all the time. So it's very exciting to watch and be a part of.
Yeah, there has also been a bounty recently, or over the past year actually, for IL world records. I believe that's ending now or soon, but people have been working a lot on setting IL world records and, you know, trying to kind of like claim a bounty for doing it, right? Which has been pretty good for like, okay, rest in peace oil lamp. Which has inspired people to play ILs more in Gradum as well, which has been really cool to see.
Yeah, it's been cool to see. 'Cause, like, yeah, sometimes like the IL boards can form like certain gaps in them, and yeah, people have been kind of like slowly filling those out lately, which has been pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Alright, so yeah, we found our German settler, and we found the kidnappers who had taken him. And we have killed the kidnappers, which has, you know, resolved the problem. So we're going to take him back to his family. But then the kidnappers' campsite turns out to be a really great choice. So this is where the gang is going to move now.
Take you back to your
You know, unsurprisingly, Micah's idea was just really bad. And both Arthur and Charles are like, no, this isn't it, Chief. But we find something better, so off we go. And we get to hear some incredible comments about German here from Arthur.
do to those fellas.
Wie bitte?
Those men back there, why did they take you?
Geld. Money. Meiner Familie gehört eine Goldmine. Sie wollen Lösegeld erpressen.
How did someone even come up with them words?
Sie bringen mich zu meiner Familie? Vielen Dank. Wie haben Sie sie gefunden?
Look, I'm sorry, friend. I can barely speak English.
Right. So, time is going to end when we return. Basically, we are going to return the settler, skip the cutscene. There's going to be a second cutscene of Dutch sitting on a wagon. We skip that cutscene, and after that one, once the text Chapter 3 appears on screen, that's time.
Dem Herrgott sei Dank.
It's difficult to explain, but I'll just call it out. Alright, we return him. Then the gang kind of like rolls up on a new campsite.
Oh, this place. Oh, it'll be perfect for it.
And we get this little dramatic camera pan here. And... fine. There you go.
That was
GG.
awesome.
Very well done.
Thank you, thank you. That was probably like 148, I guess. 149.
148 by the looks of things. On this end, at least.
Alright, that was actually not bad.
at all.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
could
awesome.
actually have been Sadie, why are you staring at me when I'm washing my face? Please. I've never seen that before, but it's very disconcerting. Yeah, without the unfortunate bounty hunters, that could actually have been PvP pace, which would have been interesting. But
And
yeah.
plus, you had the strange AI moments, so.
Oh
before
yeah.
that really cool.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
for-
Yeah, thank you, Kenzie. Thank you so for hanging out on couch. Shout out to the Red Dead Speedrun Discord. Shout out to Riggy as well. If you want to give this a look, there are multiple guides for Chapter 2. It's very accessible. We will help you with your save files. We'll help you with advice. Check out the Discord. If you want to check out Soph, that's Soph, S-O-P-H. If you want to check out Kenzie, that's Kinsey Kenzie, K-I-N-Z-Y, K-E-N-Z-I-E. And that's it for me. Thank you.